Welcome to Film News, where I talk about the latest in independent and quality cinema.
I used to daydream about being old enough to go on dates.
One of the most original horror films of the last decade is getting a sequel. It Follows, which I can't believe came out 9 years ago, was a little breath of fresh air in the overstuffed horror genre. It was the breakout feature for both writer-director David Robert Mitchell and star Micah Monroe, both of whom will be involved in the sequel, which is called They Follow. After It Follows, Mitchell had the difficult task faced by many directors of indie hits of trying to recreate the originality and success on a bigger budget with the constraints that brings. He made Under the Silver Lake, which was interesting, but didn't set the world on fire and struggled with distribution. They Follow should shoot next year. No plot details have been released so far. Who are the most creative group of people in Hollywood? The accountants. Anthony McCartan, the writer of Bohemian Rhapsody, has settled a lawsuit with the producers of the film, which claimed he hadn't received the 5% of net profits he was promised. The film made $900 million on a budget of $50. However, Fox Studios released accounting statements claiming they had lost $51 million on the film. That's some ballsy creativity right there. Sicario is getting another sequel. The script is in the works at the moment, but there's no word on who is writing or who will direct. The second film was decent, but a drop in quality from the first. So to be honest, I'll wait until the creative team is announced before I decide if I have interest in another Sicario movie. The biggest film article released in a while has been Variety's breakdown of all the problems at Marvel. I can't remember the last time I watched something Marvel made, and there's already a dozen videos ranting about this article, so I won't spend any time on it here. That said, it's a really interesting read, and worth your time even if you're not planning to drag yourself to the multiplex for the next Marvel film. Darren Aronofsky will direct a film about Elon Musk based on Walter Isaacson's biography and produced by A24. These are all the details that have been released so far, but it's Darren Aronofsky, so they have my money already. There's bound to be tons of speculation now of who'll play Musk. If you have any good ideas, put them in the comments. If you're right, you win. Well, you win nothing, but I guess being right's its own reward. David Fincher's new film, The Killer, drops on Netflix this week. If you didn't see it in cinemas, I can't blame you. It got a very limited release. If not, now's the time to catch up. I'd describe The Killer as a B movie made by a great director and writer, and I mean that as a compliment. It knows the tropes of the assassin thriller type film and is all over them. Without spoiling anything, there's a scene in so many of this type of film where the intended victim talks to the assassin in an attempt to build empathy and get the upper hand. You're always screaming at the screen, just shoot them. This is the film where he just shoots them. Some of the negative reviews have complained there doesn't seem to be a deeper meaning or theme behind the action. Lads, not everything needs to be Tarkovsky. If you're into this type of film, you'll like it. If not, you probably won't. Fincher hasn't done a ton of press for this, but he has done some, which I'll link to. Emperor magazine did an extended interview with Fincher and broke down his filmography. I'll link to that also, but heads up, it's paywalled. This was shot by Erik Messerschmidt, who is a DP who has really worked his way up through the ranks and is now getting a shot at the big time. So I'll link to an interview with him too.
It's my party and my husband doesn't want to dance with me.
I'll dance with you.
Passages has a strong claim to being this year's most hyped indie film. Mubi bought it at Sundance and have pushed it hard. The film was saddled with an NC-17 rating in the US, because we don't want kids seeing bare ass cheeks instead of violent murder. The film is about a married couple, Thomas and Martin. Thomas is a film director and the more impulsive of the two. The relationship starts to break down when Thomas sleeps with Agatha, a teacher they meet at a party. The film is directed and co-written by Ira Sachs. If I was being cynical, I'd describe the film as boho Parisians bed hopping while finding time to smoke cigarettes and look unhappy. Honestly, this film has such a cool hipster vibe it probably brews its own craft beer. But jokes aside, I enjoyed this a lot. Sachs and French-Canadian DP Josie Deschet use a static camera to frame a lot of the scenes in a tight two-shot. One character's head even sometimes blocking the others. This lets the actors do all the work. The performances have a subdued intensity to them. Ben Whishaw in particular gives the sense of a man constantly trying to hold in a scream of frustration. The film is a beautiful look at why following your feelings, no matter how strong, isn't always the best idea. Passages is streaming now and is well worth watching. Patryk Wege is the biggest director in Poland, and for his English language debut, he wants to make a biography of Vladimir Putin. No one has been cast as Putin yet, but the reason I'm sharing this story is because of the concept trailer. This trailer is... I don't know what it is, but it's definitely entertaining.
Would you give us the pleasure of reading an excerpt?
Yo, Sharonda, girl, you be pregnant again? If I is, Ray Ray's gonna be a real father this time around.
We like a smart comedy around here, especially because there aren't nearly enough of them. American Fiction stars Jeffrey Wright as a frustrated author. He believes the publishing industry in the US will only publish books from black writers on certain subjects, and has no room for the more intellectual work he writes. As a joke, he writes a book from the perspective of an ex-con gangster. Films being what they are, the book becomes a success and he's forced to keep up the charade. American Fiction is the directorial debut of Jefferson Cord. He's worked as a writer on shows like The Good Place and Master of None. The story is based on the book Erasure by Percival Everett. Will this actually be funny or disappoint like so many comedies? I haven't read the book Erasure, but I have read The Trees by Everett, which I didn't really get. But it did win the Booker Prize, so what do I know? Also, the film won the Audience Prize at Toronto, and Jeffrey Wright is the kind of actor I'd watch in anything. So I'm crossing my fingers for this to be good. The Eternal Memory is a new film by Mate Alverde. Alverde last made the brilliant docudrama The Mole Agent, which was nominated for an Oscar in 2021. More about that film later. The Eternal Memory is about husband and wife Augusto Gongaro and Paulina Urrutia, both of whom are well-known cultural figures in their native Chile. The film follows the couple as Augusto slowly succumbs to Alzheimer's. Alverde shot the film over several years. During the COVID lockdowns, Paulina took over and filmed herself and her husband at home. The film won the Grand Jury Prize for World Documentary at Sundance. It's been praised for its uplifting portrait of the couple, even as they go through an undeniably horrible time. I'm looking forward to this. It's obviously not an easy watch, but The Mole Agent was great, and all the indications are that this is also worth the investment.
Mercurio y veo un aviso que decía se necesitan personas de 80, 90 años. Estoy loco, ¿qué diablo? Porque no me convencía de 80, 90 años.
This week's random good film to watch is The Mole Agent. As mentioned before, this fantastically original docudrama was Mate Alverde's last film before The Eternal Memory. It's about a man called Sergio who's recruited by a private detective to go undercover in a retirement home to see if a patient is being abused by staff. Under the cover of making a documentary about the retirement home, Alberti's cameras follow Sergio in his mission. If you think this is going to be a grim film about old people being abused, I promise you that's not the way it goes. It definitely has its sad moments, but it's really about how compassion, empathy, and just plain taking an interest can improve people's lives. The Mole Agent is streaming now, and you should check it out. Trigger warning, you may shed a tear. Thank you for watching. It's a rainy and grim night here in the UK, but a good night to be finishing the edit here at my tiny desk. I hope you're well wherever you are in the world, and see you again next week.